Hi, my name's Jane Hoffman. I run the radio show Political Gravity, and tonight's topic is the secretive interrogation center in Homan Square in Chicago, where in an 11-year period, over 7,000 potential suspects were trafficked through there, but denied their Miranda rights, were not allowed to notify family their whereabouts, and were persecuted, so to speak. Then we will talk about qualified immunity for police, and we will also talk about the Convention of States, which is a 7-year existing organization that's trying to protect the Constitution on an active level, and they're looking to get 34 states to ratify their premises of what they would like to achieve. So with that, I'm going to turn the video mic over to the radio show. It's an upload, and it's from Blog Talk Radio. Our website is blogtalkradio.com/Tabernacle Faith. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. What I'm going to do, Don,
Here we
is I'm
go.
going to play a video about Homan Square. For some reason, my computer froze when I got home from my other activity. So I'm going to play it now. There's not going to be any glitches. Here we go.
The whole secretive nature of Homan Square makes it one of the worst experiences I've ever had to deal with. I can only imagine the folks who defendants said when they're arrested taken there. Many times when you go to Homan Square, you're told the people aren't there. Oh no, we don't have anyone. And the person who's charged with the crime sitting back there saying, "What the hell? Where's my family? I know they got a lawyer for me. Where's my lawyer?" They don't realize that they're outside banging on the door trying to get in, but they're not letting us in.
Over 7,000 people were brought to Homan Square. Police along lawyers in about 1% of the time.
Homan Square is nothing but a gigantic converted warehouse with inconspicuous doors all over and no front place to even enter. There's no driveway, there's no parking lot, there's nothing. Operating a massive red brick warehouse between two of the most crime-filled areas in the city of Chicago.
Okay, there was another glitch, so I'm just going to drop that. So, between August 2004 and June 2015, nearly 6,000 people were held at Homan Square, and they were held there to be interrogated privately without any proper police procedure. And 7,000 people were off the books. It's called off the books interrogation in this warehouse area, which was under the radar. There was nothing upfront about it. The new disclosures reveal that there was an ongoing transparency lawsuit, which gave a full-scale portrait of how bad it was, a secretive facility that the Chicago police have described as a little more than low-level narcotics crime outpost where the mayor has said the police follow all the rules, but they didn't. The police portrayals contrast sharply with those of Homan Square detainees and their lawyers who insist that this could happen to someone, it could happen to anyone. A 30-year-old man named Jose, for example, was one of the few detainees with an attorney present when he surrendered to police. The officers at the warehouse questioned him even after his lawyer specifically told them he would not speak. The Fillmore and Homan boys, Joe said, referred to police in the facility's cross streets, don't play by the rules. According to an analysis of data disclosed to the Guardian in late September of that year, police allowed access to Homan Square for only 0.94% of the 7,185 arrests logged in over 11 years. The percentage aligns with Chicago's police broader practice of providing minimal access to attorneys during the crucial early interrogation stage. So this is kind of like a forerunner to all the protests that blew up years later, including in my own city, Minneapolis. And Don, you're on the line now, and in about 20 minutes, you're going to have to take the show over if there's more guest callers because I have to punch into work. So how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine. I'm not really. Life is starting to hit me hard, and it's kind of something that everybody, a lot of people go through, and so I'm going through some stuff in life right now. But that's just life.
It's not a divorce, is it?
Not to that degree, no. But there might be. I might sell my house, and I've been in my house for 30 years. And
the house that you guys live in?
Right. There's various reasons, but one is that the market.
Right now you have. You live there. Pat lives there. Your daughter with her 2 kids live there, and so does the Shannon, right?
Right. So we all live here, and we're all in a situation that Kelly is buying a house. She just sold hers. One of the main reasons is that the economy. We have an opportunity to get
make a lot of money
in equity. Yeah, correct. And if the market doesn't seem to be stopping, and the equity here in Nevada, especially in Reno, is it's like the second highest value gain in the country. So this is the opportunity to sell our house for 30 years, and for quite a bit of equity in it. That is something that we're strongly thinking about. We have yet to list it.
Okay, I understand the situation where you want to make some money, but make sure you have an adequate place to go. And then I have to make a few, and before we get too far into that, I have to make an announcement. Suzette, it's 10:36 here, Minnesota time, and I have to punch in at 11. So after we talk about 15 minutes, you and Don can finish the show whenever you want, but Wade is supposed to call in tonight, and so he should be calling, and maybe Albert. So I'm going to pull you in, Suzette. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
So we cut. Hi, Suzette.
Hello. Hi, Don. Hi, Jane.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever had problems with Spreaker, Suzette, but the most crazy ass thing happened tonight. I got home at 9:50, which is 7:50 your time. I paid for BTR, and then they gave me a new call-in, a new guest call-in number, and then it didn't even apply to my account, but then somehow it got fixed by itself, and here we are a half hour later.
Oh, wow, that's nuts.
I know that I literally had to squeeze this show in today because someone from one of my jobs got fired, so I've been working an extra 2 hours a day. Then I went to my second job, and then I went to a meeting at church for an hour. I walk in the door, and all this stuff happened. So that was pretty bad.
That sounds like you had a full day.
Yeah.
Are you taking
So
care of
what I
yourself,
did is
Don?
What, Don?
Are you taking care of yourself?
I am taking care of myself, but we all have different schedules, and Suzette's in a class right now, and John has unavailability, so it's very helpful, when people like Wade call in too. So here's the deal, you guys. Just a minute, Don. So the reason I picked the topic of Homan Square is because it was a detention center, a hidden warehouse that only the insiders knew about. Over 7,185 people traveled through there in 11 years for interrogations and arrests. the lawyer accessibility was 1%. And it's only a topic I chose because I came face to face with it this week with somebody that I actually help service in the mental health community. And he was talking to me about the dilemma of, a lot of times, because I've lived in 7 cities and 3 major U.S. cities, like, a lot of people are really a byproduct of where they grew up. Like, if you grew up in the south side of Chicago, your chances of becoming a street person or a drug dealer are way higher than if you grew up in, like, St. Cloud, Minnesota. But there are drug dealers everywhere, just to be noted. But what I'm saying is this person has so many mental health problems from crime and influence that his life is completely affected by it. I can't name his name for personal reasons, but a lot of people are just a product of their environment. And he came to the point where he had to either become a snitch or join even a tougher gang and kill people. So he became a snitch, and now he's an outlaw, and he doesn't even live in Chicago anymore. But it's actually open topic tonight, and we don't always have to badger issues on police. But I was just wondering what was on your guys' minds tonight.
Well, I did have one question. Is that Homan Square right across? I think I might know where it's at. Is it right across or a couple, like a block away from the Cook County Jail? Do you know where those?
I don't know the answer to that, and my computer's been freezing all night, so I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
But my husband and I, when I was married, lived in Waukegan, and I really don't know Chicago that well. But I've been to the south side. I've lived on the north side, but I'm really not an expert on geography.
Okay. Anything
Is
about
that what's on your mind tonight?
Oh, not a whole lot. I mean, there is a lot, but it's kind of one of those things.
It doesn't have to be what we're talking about, because to tell you the truth, I think we've been a little too focused on police problems.
Well, yeah, I'm just talking to you in general. There's just, you get overwhelmed with all the news going on and trying to keep up. Let's see, scientists, well, they believe that there's these type of mushrooms that are on Mars, so that's like proof of life, which I thought was interesting.
So
I did hear about that on their Science Friday on National Public Radio, and they were talking about that. That was a week ago already. Thought they found something else too, like traces of some kind of liquid or something.
Yeah, some kind of,
Did
there's like odd things, like mushrooms or liquid, and then that, a little drone crawly thing, because it got stuck. They had to maneuver it so it would flip
How
over.
did they get it out?
I don't know. They were able to maneuver it to where it was a try, and I guess it finally got a grip to where it was able to flip back up and do its thing. And I was like, oh, I was thinking what you were thinking. How are they going to get that thing flipped around? Because there's only one there, and there isn't anything
It sounds
else.
like they can fly to Mars and I'm doing that.
Yeah. Well, in this
So
case,
now
it was
we've
just
gone from the
controlled.
Chicago police to Mars. Don, are you in an outer worldly mood?
what do you mean? No, I mean, I don't mind talking about, they found a black hole that was, just only about 5 billion light years away, which is the closest, and they say it's relatively new, but it's supposed to be one of the closest to our solar
You
system.
mean like is it a danger to space travelers?
Not in this vicinity, but I'm sure somewhere else. They found it when they saw 2 apparently might have been ready to set those in. So that's where how I found it. I didn't hear, Suzette, about the drone.
Mushrooms?
Yeah.
In some ways, I feel like people are unrealistic because just because they found like one plant on there, these radio people were talking about eventually moving there. Like, it's not that simple.
Yes, it
You
is.
know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it is. Right now, they are preparing the space
No,
station.
it's not, Don. It's not that simple.
It's very simple. They're prepping one of the space station that's there already to handle. They're expanding it, and they just announced that about a month ago. They're making it bigger so that more people can get there, and then they're going to plan another space station. It's more or less in between there and Mars. So that'll be a jump off point and a filling point for rockets going to Mars. And so that should cut the time, or at least the continuous voyage. They should be able to cut I think the ability for the human to age or something like that. It's something that goes hand in hand with long trips and spaceships. But anyway, that's their plan, and it's going to be here faster than we think because 45 pretty much started private-public enterprise with NASA again. And when NASA gets involved in something, it is possible. And even if Hollywood has a
I know it is
flying
not,
on
it is
on the moon, but
it's possible on a small scale, but it's not possible on a grand scale. Now, one thing I noticed about people, well, can I just say something? And it was actually Suzette's topic, but I am having computer problems tonight, and the only thing that's working well is my phone. So I'm not going to look up any moon stuff. I'm just going to make probabilities. So there was a contest in Duluth, a writing contest to write about our COVID experience. And, back in the 13 to 1500s, when people died of the Black Plague, they died within 2 days. And people are complaining about wearing masks and being inconvenienced in stores and restaurants, but we really don't have it that tough. But this week, I've had 2 friends this week have facial outbreaks, like rashes from masks. And they've had to order special products to keep their face safe. And then what I was thinking is that human nature in general is escapist, because even when we have things good, we're always looking to go somewhere else. And this is kind of what this Mars story reminds me of. Like, we're so desperate for hope that we're thinking we're going to move to the red planet in about 5 years. So, Suzette, do you have any more details on those plans? Because I can't look it up right now.
you're missing the point. That is our next journey. The moon and Mars are our destiny. We're going to be there one of these millennium. So you might as well.
No, we're not, because Jesus is coming back in 5 years. There's going to be a world war, and then you're either going to heaven or hell.
So all of us are going to be dead? I don't think so. That's why they're making it so bad.
Not dead, because actually after Armageddon, there's going to be a 1,000-year millennium of life on Earth, and Jesus is going to reign in Jerusalem.
Then she laughed.
He's going to settle that two-state thing once and for all.
Exactly.
You know what? A Muslim told me once. You know what a Muslim told me once? When Jesus comes back to Earth, he's going to come back and say that he wasn't the Messiah. It was a mistake. Yeah, right. Like he's coming all the way back to Earth to make sure he wasn't the proclaimed king. So,
Okay, but who's
Suzette,
going to
can
take
you
his
tell
place?
us a little bit? Suzette, can you tell us a little bit about that Women Who Are Patriots organization that you're in, or is it something you created?
That YouTube channel is something I created, but the classes that I'm attending for Convention of States is an organization. It started 7 years ago, and what it's about is Article 5 is a tool that our founders have given us to use in case we had a government that had gotten out of control, where most of the power is centralized instead of with the states. And so our founding fathers gave us a recourse. The only thing with that, though, is that because we are 50 states strong, you must have 34 states, no less, that agree on the amendments that you want to make to the Constitution in order to rein in the power from the federal government. And so in order to get 34 states, they have to pass legislation. And again, they have to agree on, the amendments. So Convention of States has raised and proposed 3. The first one, and they're in no particular order, is fiscal responsibility, as far as making an amendment to the Constitution that Congress, the House of Representatives, that has the power of the purse, must, as far as the budget, they have so much money to budget with, and that will be determined at the time that they hold debate and finalize it. But and they have to show that where that money goes. And the other one was term limits on Supreme Court justices and other justices, as well as congressional members, because the people that are there, they make a career out of it, and some of them even die while they're in Congress, in a seat. Not necessarily there, but they're like 80 years old, and that's a problem. And the last thing was government overreach, as far as their power within the states to control them. States that want to pass their marijuana laws or anything else, that's they're sovereign. They're supposed to be able to, and the federal government needs to have their power limited. And so right now they have 28 states that have passed their state legislature the resolution to join Convention of States, and so we are shy just a few. But then after we get those 34 states, you take it to Congress. They have to review it, propose it, debate it, and then it goes from there. And then if they finalize it and agree to those amendments, passes the House and the Senate, now we have to get 38 states to ratify it. Otherwise, it's dead in the water. So, and then we start all over again.
You're talking about the Constitution part where it says if the government is no longer serving a functional purpose, then it can be dissolved by the general population and reestablished, for a better purpose. I'm paraphrasing.
That's an option, but the thing is the states that have joined in have agreed that we don't have to go that drastic, that we can fix it by certain amendments, but to dissolve it would be too difficult to get everybody to agree to, let alone 34 states. And so we have to take little bites.
I'm sorry, you're looking for the path of least resistance, but mainly it's reform, right? You guys are trying to reform things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just making a quick announcement. I'm checking the BTR page to see if anyone else called in, but in about 5 to 7 minutes, you guys have to take over. And once my boss leaves work, then I can talk again. Okay?
Okay,
All right, now,
sounds good.
one of the things about Constitutional Convention that you have to keep in mind is that the text that goes into it has to remain the same. And
yes, that's right, they have to agree.
Once they agree on a preview of the text, and they agree that is the only text that can be negotiated.
Pass the resolution. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
passes a resolution, then they're going to, if they pass that, then it can pass. But the text can't be amended or changed in any way.
Exactly. It has to be word for word. And if there's one state that passes a resolution and the language is different, then it doesn't count.
Correct. And then the other thing is that deadline thing that I've been fighting against with the ERA, where there's generally going to be a deadline for those resolutions to be passed. And if those deadlines aren't met, then again, like you said, it'll die.
Right. So we go for the 34, the minimum first, and then after, like you said, it goes to the House and the Senate, and they say, okay, go ahead, go for it. See if you can get 38 states to agree. If you can get 38, then it's done. If not, well, see you later.
Yeah, but because they're worried, the Constitutional Convention, they're worried that it's going to be overtaken by a faction and pretty much cause maybe a civil war. So that's why they've been hesitant to bring up constitutional conventions.
Right. So that's that whole runaway convention argument that comes up. But then when you think about, I mean, it's taken 7 years just to get 28 states together to get the same language and pass it through their state legislatures. It's like, that's a lot of work. I haven't been with them that long. I just joined last month as a volunteer. So I run the district for my District 52 here in California.
You're a volunteer for the organization that supports the state convention, or you're a volunteer for the state convention?
The organization that started the whole thing, basically, that's putting it all together. If you go to YouTube and you see Convention of States, Mark Meckler is the co-founder, and he's put everything together. It's pretty big, and they got it from the volunteers at the very bottom. We have social media people that work just at social media, and we have people that train people down below us to recruit and to get signatures for the petition. And if you agree on those 3 things that I talked about, you can go to Convention of States and sign the petition. And that petition is for your state. All you have to do is it will know because of your information that you put in there. So it will go to the regional manager of that state, and then it goes to your state legislature, because the more signatures we gather in favor, then we can take it to the state legislature and say, here we go, this many people in your state want this and they want to be a part of it, so here you go. And so you guys need to pass it.
And I have one last question before I go. I'm 4 minutes. I live less than 5 minutes from work, so after I ask this question, then you and Donna are going to take over for 15 minutes. So, you know how like Texas and Georgia and other states are trying to reform the voting laws? Do you think this organization you're involved with is kind of like an extension of, well, first of all, the Democrats are ruling the lower house right now. So do you think they're trying to put into place some measures before the Democrats radicalize things completely?
Well, as I mentioned, they've been working on this for 7 years now. This is the 8th year. So 7 years ago, Obama was president, and then Trump came in. So during Trump presidency, they were still working on it, because it's not a Democrat or Republican thing. When you think about it, it's a nonpartisan, because who doesn't want to control our government? Because that government is supposed to be us, we the people. We decide where that money goes and how much goes, and not Congress, not the House of Representatives. They are our mouth, they're our voice. And, when they decide they're going to get a raise when everybody else is hurting for money after this thing, and they don't have to show up for work, they can do it via video and then give themselves raises. There's a problem. So the budget, the Supreme Court, when they sit on that bench for so long, it doesn't matter if there's 10 or 12, 16 judges. There needs to be term limits, because they get out of touch. Some of them are senile. It's just they need to they need to turn those seats over. Have them be elected or appointed or however they can be decided at the time of the convention. But yeah, there needs to be term limits, absolutely. So,
For Supreme, I agree with the Supreme Court term limits.
and as far as the federal government,
I don't
when the
think
federal
I
government
think they're
starts
gonna
applying,
allow- Yeah,
I was saying when
I just
the federal
gonna say,
government starts applying. Go ahead.
All right, well, go ahead.
I'm against, yeah, because I have to punch in 2 minutes. I'm against
Go ahead,
the
Jenny.
Supreme Court, Gene. Yeah, let me talk, damn it. I'm against
Go
the
ahead,
Supreme
Jenny.
Court.
Go ahead, Jay.
You said it 6 times, I know. Okay, I'm just kind of crabby right now. I
Got
have
it,
a lot on my plate. Too. I'm against the Supreme Court having more than 9 judges, and I'm
Me
also
too.
against not having. I also think that they should be there for life because they earned it, and it's kind of a lofty institution and it's viewed differently than the rest. And no, they can't change as fast as society, but now, like, I was never really a fan of Clarence Thomas, but he does have a good legal mind. But why can't they stay there for life, you guys?
Because she just mentioned it. You know how many the judges have gotten senile on the bench? We've had quite a few that haven't been talked about. They're there for life, and that means 2, maybe even 3 generations of people. They lose touch. And when you lose touch, then you're clashing with history, and that can be ugly.
They seem to get a God complex where they truly believe that they are ruling, which they are, over the land, which they are, but that's not their job. They're just there to interpret whether or not what is the case coming before them is constitutional or not constitutional. But when they've been there for so long, they think their opinion matters so much that doesn't matter anymore. It's what I think that this law means. And so you can't be doing that. And that power only comes when you've been there for too long.
Okay,
Yeah, then
I gotta go punch in now, but I'm just gonna say one thing. There was a senator from North Carolina, I think it was Jesse Helms, and he held the office till his death, and he was a racist, and there was nothing nobody could do about it because he kept getting voted in. So, and then there was Strom Thurmond, who was there forever. Orrin Hatch was there a long time. Even Ted Kennedy was there forever. So, but that is a political office, and you do have to get voted in. So it's not like they have 100% protection for their legacy. But either way, I'm signing off for 15 minutes, and I'll come back. You guys keep talking, and I'll keep looking to see if Wade or Albert come up.
all right, good riddance. I mean, have fun.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, look at how these Supreme Court justices are portrayed. Yes, they may have great legal minds and so forth, and they get their due credit and respect. They deserve that. But they still are men and women that put their pants on, left or right foot first, and their socks and shoes just like the rest of us. And so when we start separating them and putting them on a pedestal, and then they have that crown feeling as far as royalty, the elitists, that's a huge disconnect. We're no longer we the people.
Well, that's why you have 3 divisions of government. The branches are to counterbalance either of the 3 that goes awry. And the Supreme Court, fortunately or unfortunately, has only probably 10 to 12 high water cases that really have affected the United States. Other than that, the Supreme Court has been relatively innocuous in forming our government, luckily, because they can, effectively be the strongest of the branches. But we've effectively kept them in check, like we are supposed to be. And our main, right now in these modern times, our main things are abortion, gay rights. It's not even the government can't do much about the economy because that's the Department of Treasury. So
sure, but when they crossed the line with that whole that immunity that they had given police officers without passing legislation, they just decided this is what we're going to do, and we're going to give them protection so they can't be sued for their wrongdoing, for misconduct or anything else. For me, that right there was that they crossed the line. And when you do it once, you open it up to keep doing it.
Qualified immunity is one of the biggest concepts that we are going to have to address. I'm addressing that right now here in the Nevada legislature. I'm a citizen lobbyist, so our legislative time right now. And qualified immunity, consent, complied consent, and no-knock warrants, and general terms for the police to stop that, pretty much. Is
the no-knock warrants, though, there was authorization through the proper channels for that. Whether or not it's constitutional or not is what the Supreme Court needs to decide with that.
exactly.
But what the Supreme Court did with that qualified immunity, thank you for giving me that name because I could remember. So thank you. But with qualified immunity, that was a whole decision all on their own with no process, with no, legitimate authority through the proper channels of Congress making law. They just decided. So that's a huge problem. Yes, we have other problems with the Justice Department, but those have to be handled through the proper procedures. But the Supreme Court justice, they need to have some of that power that they think that they're willing around that is totally unconstitutional. They need to have that yanked back, and they need to be taken down a few notches because they're only a third branch, like you said.
What year you talked about qualified immunity was ratified? You know
Say that again?
year it was? What year was that? That was ratified because the Supreme Court the Supreme Court has gone through many iterations, and so it's it could have been one of the Supreme Courts that was in the 1850s, but it could have also been one of the Supreme Courts that was in the 1930s, 40s.
No, this was most recently.
But they said that police no longer have qualified immunity. I haven't heard that.
They
Or
said
that
that
they-
we no longer have it.
That they maintain qualified immunity. Okay.
Yes. But
Okay.
it was something that was signed, I thought, under, I don't want to say Reagan, but I can't be for sure. I have to look that up, and I'm not near the computer right now, but
Okay. That's all right. I just
yeah,
wanted to
I
get a
could have sworn it was under Reagan, and I was actually shocked because it was a Republican president that was signed. That
Well,
Supreme Court
qualified
had
immunity is
under. What's that?
one of the biggest problems with the peace officers, the system that you can actually kill and get away with it.
Yeah.
And in Chicago, they hadn't had before. Oh God, I forgot the police officers. I think the guy that killed who was walking around. Anyway, he was one of the first police officers in Chicago in 35 years to even be prosecuted, and that's disgusting because the police run around that place and they're shooting people left and right.
Right. Well, the qualified immunity, what that did was basically prevent them from personally being sued. Now, you could sue the city, but personally, they couldn't be sued.
You can sue the department, but you can't sue the individual officers.
Right.
And that doesn't make sense to me because officers, they're good officers, and then there are some bad officers.
really.
And there's, you have that's what due process gives you an opportunity to basically try and, explain yourself. Was it an accident? Was it not an accident? Deliberate. And if they can prove it was deliberate, and basically a lot of these cases it's pretty clear, then that person needs to pay personally, not the city. Why should the city have to pay? It was that person.
Exactly. So, and part of it is that they're going to have to start as the entity is going to have to start making a fund that's separate and distinct in their budget in order to and not only increase personnel but also to give a person who's a perpetrator, an officer or law enforcement who's actually a perpetrator, the ability to withdraw from that fund in legal, matters. That's nice. I think that's also on the side discussion.
I agree. Yes.
So there are all kinds of things that would be changed if we had our law and order agenda approved, the more progressive agenda, because that is mostly who is the back, the backbone of the entire police reform movement. I do not want to defund the police by any means. And in fact, I would like to increase funding, but that would include counselors, people who can, who are trained to de-escalate situations, things like that. And that should have been, my mom was a community police officer, so she had a territory, she had a beat, and that she went door to door, essentially, everyone's house to make sure that they knew who she was. And now the police are just vigilantes riding around in their cars, stopping everyone and thinking every situation is a danger to their lives. And all these officers who are a part of a shooting and have to give their testimony, 100% of them say that they're fearful of their lives. And I would fire them. I would fire them.
Your mom committed to the community, and when they're a part of the community, then they don't have to fear for their lives, and the citizens of that community feel safe when the officer is around because they know that they're on the same side. So when you lose your sense of community, if you live in that same community, that you're going to get what you got right now going on. People don't trust, the lack of trust.
Well, but 21st century community policing task force that Obama approved is one of the models that I have been going by for years in terms of how police should act under the code, because they take a code too. They take they're sworn officers. So for the most part, we pay them, so we're paying them to kill us, especially as minority or indigenous and people of color. So we're paying them to kill us. That is an oxymoron that I really can't accept.
Well, they're certainly not there to protect, even though their cars say to serve and protect, but they're there to serve and protect.
Sorry, Wade is on the air now, and I'm still in a meeting, so Wade, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Eileen.
Yeah, hi guys. Yeah,
Hey,
good points. I've been listening for a while. Hey, so I don't have to cut in too much. Good. I agree. I think I mostly agree with most all of what's being said.
Yeah, well, we're pretty much in agreement, so I'm glad. I'm glad he agrees. That's so nice.
It's a smooth
Yeah.
night.
Yeah, it's not always the case with the show, but yeah. It's a good sign when we agree on something. It's like, come come on, politicians, everybody's saying this.
Well, we have a Democrat, Republican, and liberal agreeing on something, so that means
Holy moly.
Yeah.
That means that 45 is not in office anymore, because when he was there, nobody agreed on anything, and that is one of the big apparent things that I want. That I guess the Democrats want everybody to understand that this is. I don't know about you, but I feel a lot more peaceful and relaxed, and able to take care of my general business, as opposed to trying to figure out if we're going to be losing money for tariffs or who knows what. I mean, that was so much. I can't even give it any specific thing that I know that I feel a lot more relaxed now.
Well, that's a docile contentment that you get when you have a non-transparent administration. When you have a transparent administration, everything's out there. It appears chaotic because you're not used to dealing with things head on. Instead, it's everything's good. You guys are great. Life is going to be great for the future. Don't worry about it. We got it handled. And in the meantime, they're, doing the backroom deals and other things. And so everything seems fine on the surface. But that's what you get when they're non-transparent.
I think, and I had another friend say, "Oh, it's so peaceful and quiet now that with the new administration." And the thing is, though, I think you're the point, the perspective that a person listens to makes a huge difference, because really, I mean, honestly, Republicans tend to listen to Republican perspective news, and Democrats listen to the Democrat perspective news. We don't have much in the way of neutral news anymore. So, the Republicans now, like in Fox News, you're hearing, "Oh man, everything's going to hell in a handbasket." The people that are maybe listening to, I don't know, MSN, CNN, they're pretty mellow, and not. When Trump was in office, they were pushing a lot of, "Oh my gosh, he's going to just look at what he did now. Can you believe it?" So yeah, I think perspective can make a big difference.
Well, all I know is I feel more peaceful now.
Where people are at, because you want to know, of course, if you're on one side, you want to know what the other side's saying, so this way you can balance things out. And if you hear something that you hadn't heard before, then you go check it out to make sure, what it's about.
That's what should happen for sure. Hearing different perspectives, absolutely. Not what happens a lot of times in reality.
But January 6th was real. That was not fake, and that's what that's one of the main things I'm talking about. You got that gentleman who was still president, and he pretty much told a lie from the start. He said he was going to be with them, marching with them. He wasn't. He said that there wasn't going to be a breach, or there was a small breach to the gate that turned out to, kill 7 people. And so it's a pretty, wild set of testimonies after January 6th that would contest.
And now, there's more.
Veracity of what went on.
Yeah, but and again, there's an issue. There's a matter of perspective, right? Because the Democrat slanted news, like CNN, they were totally dismissing the stuff that was going on over the summer, what was going on in like Portland, taking over government buildings, burning things down. There were people killed, and
You are kidding.
then
You are kidding.
and then they
That news was on every night. That
we had
news
like
was
Cuomo saying who
on.
said
Hey, forget Cuomo. Cuomo doesn't
okay, well,
talk.
good.
He doesn't talk for me. he doesn't talk for a lot of Democrats. I mean, none of them do. They're just talking heads. Bottom line
well,
is
that's
that
good to hear.
nobody, nobody could get away from the fact that the cities were, I can't say burning because when I was, in the 60s and 70s, I know what burning cities are. This ain't shit. And what these people are going through today is like little, tap dance class. What we went through back in the 60s and 70s was real upheaval. But the bottom line is that all I'm saying is that and what you're saying about the non coverage of news of the cities and riots, they were riots all summer. They were being televised. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I wouldn't say that the amount of damage that was created during the summer or done to people was nothing because there were people that lost their livelihoods in that.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody lost their lives except for Rick.
Yes, they lost their lives. There were like five
except
who
for
were murdered.
Except for Rittenhour and Kenosha. Nobody really lost their lives.
Was it Seattle or Seattle? That what do you call it? That area that they had taken over.
Right.
People that were killed that were actually in Trump.
Right. They were in the city and they got killed.
Yeah, they were members of Trump. They were killing each other, shooting each other. So
right.
yeah, there were some things that happened with that. But when you have that, everything that happened over the summer compared to the one day, really?
Really?
I don't mean to put it that way, but
really?
We're still talking about it.
If I was, okay, I can't say that because a black man, I was being killed if I just killed a piece of grass. But in terms of the destruction, now you had as many people in the whole summer riot more or less killed than one day. And in terms of property is property. You've got businesses, houses, stores, whatever. But when you go to the capital of the United States of America, which Congress and Senate in session, that is far more deadly and onerous than.
Well, I'm not justifying it, but also on the same note, when you let police officers in a building and then try and set it on fire, come on. That
I was
yeah.
happened at the
Yeah, well, I would still rather see that than somebody with a Trump flag or the American flag hitting a police officer. I would rather have.
You'd rather see them burn.
I'd rather see the police burn than to see the American flag being hit against a policeman. Yes, because the police officer knows their line of duty. If they're in a burning building, that's their fault. It's dumb as shit because that's the fire department jurisdiction. But if they are,
I have something to say about that, Don.
But if you're in your element, if you're in your element and you are attacked,
I'm at work, so let me just say something quick. Don, in Minneapolis, a white guy burned down an empty police station, and now he has to pay $2 million restitution. But in another city, they try to lock the doors from the outside and burn the police station with police inside.
Yeah, and like I said, the police are doing their job. Nobody died in that takeover, if you will. But
so you'd rather see them burn than hit with a flag where they get to go home at the end of the day.
They don't go home, but they did. But one guy
still attempted murder.
Go home at the end of the day.
I know.
That's all. He got hit and he didn't go home at the end of the day. That's one of the most disgusting pictures I've ever seen in my life.
Dude, that's so one of the problems with the Capitol insurrection is that they didn't, the people who participated didn't take into account that there would be a backlash later. Like, they had their 45 minutes of fun in there, but moving statues around and then that other guy is attacking a security guard and a police officer, like, there were a few people who died out of that.
Right, and I don't know what that's talking about because, I mean, these people protesting for 135 days in a row, they're just saying, you know, kill the police. You got people walk around the Capitol going, hang Mike Pence. That is, that of their own party, that is beyond insurrection. That's beyond sedition. That is just plain.
Wasn't there some chanting about killing police? And there was also, like, I know the name Dave Dorn was murdered during some of these riots. So people were killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing is that they're both horrible, non-democratic, un-American things to do. But
we can definitely agree.
What is American? We started this whole shit by kicking people's ass. We didn't come here with books and food and provisions. We came here with guns and chains and
Where?
the attention. No, I'm talking about. Well, I'm saying ideologically, America was built on violence and murder, and then slavery. So, bottom line is that what is so surprising about some of this shit? That's who we are. We're violent animals that have been controlled by one certain culture, and that is that's completely wrong.
You're
not when
you're not looking at the history of other parts of the world at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
exactly.
That's what everybody did. Look at the history of the Ottoman Empire and the history in China and Asia. Like, that's what.
Well, the Ottoman Empire was ruled by black people, but the bottom line is that
and they were violent and
they were violent, and that's But we are supposed that, and I understand that. But we are supposed to be civilized. There's a word there that nobody is really using at all, especially when they're trying to change vernaculars. But the word civilized is supposed to be a part of our ideology. And when we are constantly looking at news bombarded every second by violence, murder, war, greed, theft, pollution, when we are constantly bombarded with those issues, then just like we talked about, Dave talked about the young man from Chicago, you get indoctrinated, you get ingrained. In some cases, you get brainwashed into thinking that what you are actually looking at is the truth. And it can be the biggest falsehood in the world. You know how I feel. The biggest falsehood in the world is that Jesus Christ saw these pictures that he's white, or that it's cute. That's the first thing in the world.
Hundreds of years ago, the Europeans didn't know what he looked like.
You revert to that, like it's going to push buttons.
I ride the elevator all day long, so I'm pushing buttons all day long. But for the most part, if you read the doggone Bible,
I'm not disagreeing with you. That's why I'm saying you're trying to push buttons that can't be pushed because I already have agreed with you.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna blame medieval Europeans for having no clue what Jesus looked like and depicting them as what they were familiar with. That's
it's written in the Bible. Wait, it's their text. It says, hair of wool, skin of hands of bronze. That's just in the Bible. And so,
well, I I think they weren't
And
seeing
you
those.
you travel overseas a lot. You see the edifices, like at the churches that have a Jesus that's painted there, who is the true depiction, Black Jesus. But of course, that old concept that Jesus is spiritual, he's everywhere. Like, that's bullshit. But so that means the Bible, the text of the Bible is a lie. Go for it. And that's what I was talking about. One of my biggest problems, biggest lies.
Yeah, the Europeans also depicted him dressing the current clothing at the time of their time, not Jesus' time.
Not Jesus,
So they depicted
exactly.
him with what they saw around. They read the scripture and they imagined things based on what was around them. And I'm not going to blame them for that. Like, people go off of what's familiar.
I blame them for it because you're changing history. You're changing what was real. That's like having the Wizard of Oz in modern day suits. That's not how it works.
Well, they did
Like
recast it with black people. And that
Right.
was the win. So if we're going to talk about cultural appropriation.
And it was very popular too. But
It was fun. I liked the movie, but then it's like, don't complain when there's like an anime that's done with white people or something. Because I mean, Korea did the Three Musketeers with Korean guys.
Right. And the one the play that got me that was stolen from me was a spoof on Scrooge, and it was a black cast. So yeah, no, it was. I've done that before myself.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that there are falsehoods that we've been going under for centuries that really have affected what's going on now. So we have to address those falsehoods and really, and really make sure that we teach the right classes. That's what the education Department of Education right now has been boiled in multicultural curriculum, which I helped pass here in. I was very instrumental in passing here in Nevada. That we teach history of everyone, proper history of everyone, and not the watered down version like Christopher
And the
Columbus.
good and the bad.
Yeah. He didn't discover shit. Christopher Columbus is damn well, he was lost. He didn't discover jack. People were already here. They were saying even Leif Erikson was here. He discovered the America thing, and that's why his statues are coming down, and they're renaming his the holiday, but Indigenous Peoples Day. So that's one of the things that we are trying to change because we're trying to make sure that, and it's for white people because they don't know the history. White people are just so ignorant of what really is because they weren't taught what the truth was in school. So it's kind of like everybody's got to start from page one and read the same book to determine how we really got here.
Well, then, yeah, we're also going to learn that other places and other cultures were doing bad things too the whole time. Well, you mentioned we're supposed to be civilized. Well, I mean, I don't think any countries back then were very civilized compared to modern standards. We have a different way of looking at things than they did back then. All over the world, people fought conquest, there was slavery.
There were some countries in Asia and Africa that had peace for like that's a couple thousand years. So there have been quote unquote civilized societies. I can't say Pompeii one,
pretty
but
small ones.
I mean, civilized. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, nobody's within 2 200 miles of your 500 miles, if you're 1,000 miles, of course you better be civilized.
Not necessarily, because you wouldn't have the interactions with society to know what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So you can't necessarily say for sure that a person would be civilized.
Right. Well, I mean, most of the time, if you're in a bubble, if you're in a vacuum civilization, the only time you're going to be uncivilized is if you have an insurrection of one or two. Very seldom are you going to have a civil war with 800 people that lasts for 200 years.
Well, that's not
Yeah,
true. As you
that's
mentioned,
not-
if you're a person living out in the middle of nowhere, thousands of miles away from people, and you never learned, you were born there in that house or whatever, farm, you never learned how to eat with a spoon and fork. You can't just come in and out of being polite and using the social norms if you've never learned them. So you would be that's society standards.
Genghis
And
Khan,
also,
he conquered over 1,500 miles of land, and he was a one-man show.
But we're trying to figure out what peaceful civilizations that we've been able to we can replicate. And there aren't too many.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, people nowadays, I think, are a lot more peaceful than in the past. At least government. That still not saying it's as good as it should be. And usually, yeah, I mean, it's usually the power struck people in power that are that push the violence. They say power corrupts. Also, you talked about the news and all the violence and stuff, and the news focuses on that, which is true too. I think we focus on that in history, and it's nice to look at the positive too. And nowadays, like there's things being invented, there's amazing things being done in science and health and medicine and technology, but that doesn't make as much of the news as the violence and the bad stuff.
Sure. And as Don mentioned, they sensationalize it on purpose. So, the populace being inundated with it daily, on the hour, every hour, not every minute, you turn on the news or radio, something's going on. And so, they make it seem as though it's more than it really is. And even though it is small, it still exists. Because not every state, not every county, not every city is the same. You may have cities with more violence than others. And so those that don't experience it aren't aware of it. And those that live it every day, that's all that they know. And so they believe that that's where it exists everywhere. And as Don mentioned a moment ago. But, in all reality, when we look at the statistics, violence has actually gone down. Violence and crime has gone down since 1992.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All this stuff.
Yeah.
All this stuff is not reflected. Just in reality, these organizations, these negative clubs or whatever the case, they're there to perpetuate. There's a side that even if they're losing, they need to be in the system in order to have that kind of ideological balance. If you're a Democrat, you got to take your lumps when you lose. If you're a Republican, until recently, you've got to take your lumps when you lose, but you're not going to stop doing what you're doing over time. Because it's a job.
You guys have to go now, but you guys can talk 15 more minutes. But because I transfer these good shows to YouTube, can you get out of the noise area, please? The baby zone. Hello? Don,
Babies are done.
can you get out of the baby zone so when I transfer it to YouTube, then people can really hear what we're saying?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, have a good night, y'all, and You can talk as long as you want. I think there's like 30 minutes of airtime left. But I'll see you next time. But go ahead and keep talking.
All right.
Good night.
We'll see you around, Jane.
Good night, Jane.
Yep, bye-bye.
You bet.
But yeah, that's the thing I worry about is the news. Well, that can kind of cause violence if people are like, oh, look at everybody's out to get you and look at this bad stuff. And then, yeah, people get more hostile from hearing that. So that's kind of my concern. But yeah, it helps to look at the good in the world.
Also from what? I lost you.
Oh, hearing that all the talk about, look at how all this bad stuff and everybody's out to get you. And, you know, when people hear that, yeah, then it makes them more defensive.
See, I have never, ever said I'm out to get you. I have never been retaliatory.
No, I never said you did.
No. I'm just saying in general. I'm just saying as a people. I don't understand people because I don't understand fear. I don't understand a lot of emotion. I don't because I'm more Spock-like, where logic is supposed to more or less control your life, if that's what you want to call it. So I don't experience the things, and so I don't understand why people have to take retribution, have envy, jealousy. Those are things I don't understand. So when you say those things, I'm not comprehending.
Yeah, it's